This video will walk through basic web usage of ExpensePath, primarily how employees can create and submit expense reports in the system. It starts by logging in from our website, ExpensePath.com, using your email address and password, and that will take you to your dashboard. There are three main sections of the dashboard. The first is for employees who are managers and have to review other employees' expense reports. Those reports can show up here. Now, as a manager, you'll receive an email anytime an employee submits an expense report, and that email actually includes the contents of the expense report and includes two buttons for approve or deny. So you actually don't need to log into the system, but by doing so you can review things like receipts if you want to. The second section is essentially draft reports. An employee can have multiple draft reports in the system and can open an expense report and continue to add items to it, and when they're ready to submit it, they can come in and submit that through the approval process. And the final section is expense reports that are in review. So an employee can track where they are in the review cycle and who may be holding them up. Let's walk through an expense report. So we'll create a very simple expense report. In fact, we'll call it sample report. You have to give the expense report a title and a description, and then it's generally creating expense items for that report. So it starts by giving any line item a date. So let's say on the 4th I wanted to submit, or I had to pay for my cell phone bill. So maybe every month I submit my cell phone, and to capture that here I just enter the vendor name and the amount, and I can also capture the receipt. So if I have the receipt on my PC, I can capture it here. There are actually three different ways to get receipts into the system. The first I'm showing you here on the website. The second is our mobile apps, which are available for free download for users, for both Android and iPhone users. Those apps are integrated with the camera phone, so it's very easy to capture images of receipts on the fly. And the third is email. So if you have an expense receipt, you can attach it to an email. It has to be an attachment, and send that email to receipts@expensepath.com. And that's all you need to do. We recognize your email address and we'll put it in your account for you. So this line item is done. So let's say I wanted to add another, and in this case I'll add a bit of a special line item, which is auto mileage. Auto mileage, instead of needing a vendor and amount, what I need to input is the number of miles driven. So let's say I drove 75 miles. It'll calculate my reimbursement based on the reimbursement rate that the company has assigned me. And in this case, maybe I'll add a project code. So maybe this was to see one of my clients, and that can be captured as well. And you can see to the right within the table there are a couple of icons. And so one is if there's a receipt, this icon shows up. And if there's a project code, this one does. And it makes it easier for employees to recognize that they've filled in all information, as well as for reviewers to see where there may be information missing. And in this case, I may even say that this trip was to see, meeting with client. Now let's add a itemized receipt. So oftentimes, if you stay in a hotel, there's one receipt that has actually multiple different charges on it. So in this case, let's say I stayed at a hotel and I stayed there for 3 days. So we have what we call a recurring expense, right? So I stayed there from the 4th to the 6th, and I was charged my room rate every night, and let's start with $119. It creates each of those nights. And if one of those was at a different rate, I can make the adjustment. In addition, if I had, let's say, room service one night, I can capture that as well, and that instead of going to hotel, we'll go to the correct category, like meal allowance. And let's just do one more expense here. So let's say I had my internet charges at home, and let's say the bill this month was $60. So in this case, you can see it shows my violation, so I do need to attach the receipt. But in addition, I have a monthly budget from the company of $50, and I've gone over that. So maybe in this instance, I was paying for 2 months. so I can put in a justification. Now any reviewer will see that there's a violation, but they can read the justification, and then it's up to them to decide if they want to approve or deny. So if I've completed this expense report, I could save it if I want to work on it more later, or I could submit it. And in this case, let's submit it. So the system will just ask me to clarify that I do want to submit it. I just say yes, and that report now is going to go through the review cycle. I can still access it. So for example, if I want to withdraw it, if there were mistakes in it I want to correct, I can withdraw it and then resubmit it. In fact, I'll show you can access any expense reports from My Expenses, My Expense Reports, and this will include historic reports that were fully approved in the system. But if I wanted to access the one we just did, I can just click on Sample Report, and it'll show me here. For any expense report that's been submitted, there's also a print view. So if you do want to save a version outside of our system, you can do that. By clicking print, it generates a PDF, and that PDF includes the basic information of the expense report, as well as all the receipts. So you can see this was the cell phone bill that I had included. And just very quickly, the other section here that I'll show is unattached expenses. So if you do send an email in of a receipt, this is where it will show up. And with any of these, I can just click on them and attach them to any of the existing draft reports I have. That's essentially the system. If you have any questions, you can always send an email to support@expensepath.com, and we do generally respond very quickly to those. Thank you.